So the last time we met, we were talking about 21st century learning, 21st century digital tools, overall technology in our curriculum, in our school, in our classroom. Okay. From that, we gathered a few questions that I sent out to other teachers, parents, and other school personnel, and we're just going to basically go over those here today and maybe see how we can implement some different strategies into our curriculum. So really our objective is to review the survey of technology and implementation. What are we doing right now in our school? What are ways we can go about doing it better? And then identify the biggest obstacles that we face implementing these 21st century tools and learning concepts. Okay, and then we'll briefly touch on some other technology learning opportunities that will be provided to you guys. Okay, so if you wouldn't mind, let's take a look at the first question. It has to do with if you had the available source of technology, how often would you use it? I thought this was a good question because we don't necessarily want to be providing our teachers with stuff that they're not going to use. But from the results that we had, majority of them are going to be using the technology that we give them, which I think is a positive thing. That shows that we have teachers that want to use technology and implement that into their curriculum. Now we just have to figure out how and when they're going to be doing that. Okay. If we look on just the basic knowledge of our staff, typically most of them are in that 4 range based out of 5, which is a pretty good standard. I would hope most of our teachers are that way anyways. If it was a little bit lower, more of this conversation would be how can we bump that knowledge rank up. Okay. One of the biggest things from this was how to communicate better or more effectively with you guys, and that brought up the use of social media in the classroom. It was kind of a loaded question because I wanted to see people were going to pick the social media aspect that they were most used to or familiar with, and it kind of was split between Facebook and Twitter. So I think from an admin standpoint, we really need to be stressing how we communicate to our teachers through those social media forms because that's what they're most familiar with, and we're going to get better responses from that. Okay, and then the one question I was a little disappointed on was the short response, which asked what about different types of technologies that we might not know about yet, but that you have heard about. There's only a couple that got brought up, and that was Google Classroom and then Chromebooks and stuff like that. I was kind of hoping there would be that diamond in the rough type tool, but it just really wasn't there.
What's your opinion on being one-to-one and heading in that direction?
I strongly believe that one-to-one is the wave of the future.
Sure.
I personally think that kids aren't going to learn just looking at a computer screen, though. We still have to have that face-to-face interaction just because there's so much real-world stuff that you can't get face-to-computer.
Sure.
Whether that just be looking somebody in eye to eye, just body language and that type of deal.
And I think that's where you're kind of seeing some of that kick back on if you had the available source, how often would you use it? Your first question there. I think teachers kind of have this stigma that if we implement one-to-one, it's replacing the teacher. And that's a myth that's associated with it. So if there's some way that we could really kind of change that mindset and let people know it's not something that you have to use every single day.
Yeah. It's literally a tool that you can use.
Right. It's a
now,
resource.
With that resource though, do you think we should do away with books and make them all ebooks, or do we still think there's some something to having pad and paper?
I think that some kids are going to be more comfortable with having something they can hold in their hand, something they can highlight. Their study tools, study habits revolve around actually having some physical thing where they might start. This is infinite opportunities to get away from studying, so I just think giving them actually something that can get them away from technology at times sometimes provides them with a better chance.
Well, I agree, because like mine, in the alternative setting is when they have